Hello, welcome back to the Pro-Pilot Playbook podcast. Today is October 21st, 2020, and
Yep.
you guys clicked on the title of this video or the podcast itself within iTunes, or actually, update, we're on like 8 different platforms now. The podcast is even you can even tell your Alexa device to listen to us, which is pretty cool. But anyway,
Awesome.
we wanted to give a little update to the situation here in the airline industry, what we're seeing out there, and just in general from talking to our colleagues and what we're experiencing ourselves. And I'm Sean, and
I'm Mike Martin. Yeah.
All right. So I'm wearing I'm just a little dressed down today. Got some of the Pro-Pilot Playbook swag on, and wearing a free T-shirt I got from the FBO in Vail.
Great. Yeah, I got my Learjet gear on, although I'm next week going to start flying a Challenger again. So I'm going to have to get some Challenger shirts now.
That's right. The upgrade is done. Is the plane on property yet, Mike?
No, not until the beginning of the month. It's a little delayed. We're getting some interior work done to it, which is like super extensive. A whole new interior put in it. So it was supposed to take 4 weeks, and now 3 weeks, and it's up to like 7 weeks now. You know how it is with that maintenance. Oh yeah.
Right.
But yeah. So Sean's got some numbers. He's going to update us on kind of where the airlines are at and how this pandemic's starting to shake out, because it's a very fluid situation with the airlines and layoffs and all that stuff. And then I got a couple things to talk about as far as stats on what's actually happening with the virus. So Sean, why don't you start off by telling us how are the numbers panning out? It is turning out better than what we would have thought a few months ago, right? So the money's gone, right?
Right. So that was what I was going to start off with. Remember, in our last industry update podcast, we were talking about the I believe they called it the CARES Act or whatever it was, that the actually I have the number written down, the $58 billion that went out. And that wasn't just all for the airlines. I believe there was like $32 billion that was earmarked just for the airlines of that.
Yeah.
All that money ran out on September 30th. And of course, they're trying to get another stimulus thing going, but that's still going back and forth in Washington, and that money is not available yet. So immediately on October 1st, you have airlines furloughing or just straight up laying off employees. I think they use the word furlough for most of it. American Airlines seem to be they really, I believe the number was like 17,000 folks altogether, 15 or 17,000. Of those,
I guess just for
those are everybody. That's everybody from gate agents to that isn't pilots. Their pilot pool may not even be that big, actually.
And Sean, can I bring up, just because I was confused on this when I first started flying, I didn't know what a furlough was. But it's an airline term. I'm not just an airline term, but until I start flying, but it's essentially the exact same thing as getting laid off, right? Except you get called back. Is that?
Yeah. You're issued a number. Well, you may not get issued a number, but based on your seniority number, as they need people back, the economy's recovered or the company's recovered, whatever the case is, you'll get a call back in the order of your employee number or furlough number to come back to work.
Right. But you can still get unemployment and all that.
Yes, you are. That's what I was just about to say. Absolutely, you can. So anyway, the money ran out at the end of September, and there was no more money available. The airlines have all showed significant losses in their third quarter stock market reporting. I believe United, $1.8 billion in loss for the third quarter. Ooh. Delta, $5.4 billion loss. Last year, to put that in perspective, last year, third quarter, they showed a profit of $1.5 billion. So a $5.4 billion loss. Oh, man. That's just nasty.
Yeah, that's brutal. This is just crazy for the airline.
Delta, along with United, is one of the airlines that actually didn't technically furlough any pilots. The pilots had come to an agreement, and Delta is not going to revisit the idea of furloughing anybody until November. So that's
Awesome.
good.
Yeah.
United, whatever deal they worked out with their pilots, they're stating they're not going to look at furloughing until June of 2021. But my
Wow.
prediction is there's not going to be any reason to furlough anybody in June of 2021. However, I mean,
No.
United, both of those companies, United and Delta, had done some work to some precursor to this. They saw the writing on the wall. Delta did the early retirements. Remember, Delta Airlines was going to be hiring 1,800 pilots this year. I think they had like 1,200 pilots take early retirements and some other stuff. United had some guys. I know one of my buddies at United had been sitting around for the last 4 months. And I meant to talk to him before we got on the call here. I don't know what all that involved, but I know he's going back to requal this month. So
Good.
he's been down in Florida flying seaplanes. Got his seaplane instructor certificate. He's been having a ball.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah. But people are going back to work. I mean, actually, as of this 2 days ago on Sunday, we finally broke the record in a single day for the year. 1 million, or since the coronavirus started, 1 million passengers in a single day as of this Sunday that just passed here in October.
Excellent.
And 6.1 million for the week of passengers. This is passengers coming through TSA, which is up 36,000 from last week. So it's starting to move. People are between being just done with this thing, or people are starting to realize that the airlines are actually, it's pretty safe to travel, even in the corona environment. Super safe to travel.
Yeah. In fact, I got a couple articles pulled up, and I want to preface this by saying, we're not trying to be political here. I know there's an election going on, and certain sides think it's safer than other sides, but I mean, and you can spin data any way you want, but there was a couple of major news stories in the last week or so regarding the airlines, which are really positive, and that's our job here, is to kind of report airline news. But there was a study done, you can Google this, it was a major news story, basically saying that they took all the passengers screened since the coronavirus, which was 1.2 billion passengers. And
that's actually since that number is actually, sorry to interrupt you, but that number is actually from the beginning of 2020.
2020.
Yeah.
Okay. So year-to-date passengers.
Yeah.
And it shows that only 44 cases were identified that originated from an airline flight. And I feel like the contact tracing is pretty good now. If you get it, they call you and they ask where you've been. And, if those people say, oh, well, I flew somewhere, and they go, well, where'd you go? And, you're on United Flight 77 to San Francisco, and then it traces back, then I guess that would be linked to this. So either way, I mean, even if these numbers are off 50%, it's still, 44 people out of a billion plus. I mean, it's crazy. It's like no one's catching it at all on airplanes.
Yeah, that's like one in. I knew you were going to throw out that stat because I saw the same thing.
One case in every 27 million.
Yeah, well, yeah, one in 27 million. Yeah, it's incredible. It's
so you could drive and then get in a car accident. That'd be more dangerous than flying on a plane and catching the coronavirus. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, stopping at the gas station to get gas you'd have a better chance of getting it there, contracting it at a gas station than you would.
Right.
I would think. The other thing this is all sparked up is we are so much smarter about all this stuff now. The DOD was actually involved in a study. I don't know if you're just about to talk about this, Mike, but they got all these fancy air sensor things and put them in an aircraft and put them in different seats. They're trying to figure out whether the airline's doing this whole skipping a seat thing, if it's 3 seats in a row, if they were putting passengers. They wanted to know what the what this, your contraction rates or whatever they call it.
Right.
And what we realized is that the air within that big metal tube of an airliner is actually, I had to write this down. It is 15 times cleaner than the average operating room in the United States.
Right.
So
that's crazy. That is crazy.
Yeah. So the
And
air in an airliner, your typical passenger airliner, recirculates 3 times every minute. Okay, and that's fresh air. That's not like air inside the cabin. Well, actually,
Right.
75% of that air that recirculates 3 times a minute, every time it recirculates, 75% of that air is fresh air from outside the cabin of the aircraft.
And in the stratosphere.
Yeah, exactly. Way up there. And 25, so it means 25% of it is recirculated from the cabin. But remember, it's recirculating 3 times a minute. But now we have the HEPA filters on there. There was always filters, but now they put the HEPA filters in there. So it is this is a super clean environment. I mean, unless you're going in there licking everything, I think you're going to be okay. I mean, the common sense still prevails. You're still walking through a dirty airport terminal and everything else. But I think that the average person thinks that, and we had another episode we talked about this. The average person thinks that the air you take off with in the airplane, once that door closes, is the same air you land with, and that's
it's not even
horrible
close.
Misconception.
Right. Here's another one I got for you here. This is a new article that just came out. It's the Flight Attendants Union. Did you see this one, Sean?
I don't think so. I don't know.
The largest flight attendant union in the U.S. that represents United Airlines did a study and took a sample of over 1,000 flight attendants across the industry and determined that less than 1% of the roughly 120,000 flight attendants contracted the coronavirus. So the flight attendant contraction rate is lower than that of the general population.
That's a pretty impressive stat there, because the billion people, the 1.2 billion people you were just talking about, the flight attendants are the ones coming in contact with all those people. And they're
working in that environment. I mean, a flight attendant is on the amount of time they spend on an airplane daily. I mean, it's crazy, in the cabin, walking around, serving people. Yeah. So, it's interesting stats, but I think the way this is shaping up, well, I mean, I think we can all agree that the virus in general is appearing to be way less dangerous than what we thought. And I'll be the first. Dude, I was freaking out when it first came out. You were making fun of me. I mean, I did think it was very serious. I mean,
you were starting to freak me out, though.
yeah. But this data comes in, and then they send the USS Comfort. No one gets on it, and then it slowly starts trickling in. And you're like, well, maybe this isn't. And now this is just another layer we're seeing with the airlines that maybe the infection rate isn't as high, and it isn't as dangerous. So what that equates to is hopefully, when the travels, we got the holidays and stuff, hopefully people say, you know what, I'm not going to drive and I'm not going to stay home. I'll just go ahead and ride on the airlines, which translates to good things for the industry and good things for pilots, which is what we're all about here, is kind of tracking how all that's going to go. So, and then we don't even have the vaccine yet, but they're talking it could be as early as late November. Is it Pfizer may have the vaccine? It depends. I mean, there's a couple going bad, but if that happens, first they're going to vaccinate. Obviously, they're not going to have that much of it, and they're going to vaccinate, high risk people first. But if we start to have widespread vaccination by the spring break is an enormous time for the airlines, all the travel, and then you get into the summer travel, and then all this pent up demand. Because I think everybody we know is itching. I mean, people want to travel. They're just not, which is why these lake houses and all these driving destinations are through the roof. People want to go places. So next summer could be gangbusters.
I really think it will be. Yeah, I truly believe it will be.
we always bring this up, man, but it's important because, a lot of our audience is just aspiring pilots and people that are already learning to fly and everything. But we've maintained all through this that if you're just getting into this business, this is not a bad time. Maybe you've lost your job as a result of the coronavirus or whatever. But, this takes time, 1 to 2 years, maybe even longer, depending on what methods you choose to get into the business. But if you look at these numbers, the numbers you just read about screenings, how they're up 30% in 1 week, okay? And then the other numbers that you just read at the beginning of the segment about Delta was supposed to hire all these pilots per month, and now instead they're dramatically cutting their force. Well, what happens when everybody gets vaccinated and people want to go? Now we've got a enormous labor problem. I mean, there was a shortage of pilots to begin with. Now they've laid off even more. They haven't hired any, and then demand comes back. It's a bad situation. So but it's good for if you want to get into the industry. Right now, you don't really care, if there's jobs out there because you're just doing training.
Right.
So
The companies that were hit though, the majors are, of course they got the stimulus money, and the regional carriers are not faring as well. Remember when all this stuff, when the shutdown was in full force, right, the airlines had brought back took down all their route structures. They had one, maybe two airplanes a day going into cities, and they were doing those with larger aircraft, ones with, like the 737s or the Airbuses where they had 3 seats on each side so they could maximize the cabin as much as possible. The RJs were parked. The regional jets were parked. I do have a lot of folks that I know that, it just got that first regional jet job or were at the regionals that are furloughed at home. However, the regional companies are still, they know what you were just talking about, what we've been talking about. They understand what's coming, and they are 100% full on, still taking resumes, processing the resumes. They are on a hiring freeze at the moment, of course, but they're still, everything's still up and running. They know what's coming. The other thing that's really helped out the industry, I can't imagine what this thing would have been like if this would have happened just, I don't know, 8 years ago. Gas prices. Gas prices are dirt cheap right now. And I mean, that is so important for this industry. With the gas prices being as cheap as they are, it's really allowing these companies to be able to get by, because it wouldn't have been a $1.8 billion loss or a $5.4 billion loss. No. It would have been we're locking the doors.
Yeah, you're right. Now it seems like, don't you think, Sean, the middle carriers, not the legacy and not the commuters, but the discount airlines, I guess, for lack of a better word. So I'm talking about Frontier and Allegiant and Spirit. Yep. Those I know pilots at all of those companies, and they're I would say probably the least affected. Southwest also. I mean, I know a guy that was hired at Spirit and was in class when the lockdown happened. And he was like, I'm done. I'm probably going to be out for 2 years or something. And he didn't get furloughed. And actually, Southwest didn't furlough anyone. I got a couple buddies there. They took this package, and these guys really like it. Both Southwest and the Spirit guys get like 80% of their salary. They take like a volunteer layoff. They get all their benefits and like 50 or 80% of their salary, and they don't have to work. And, one guy, he was driving all over. He was out in Colorado, screwing around, down in Florida because he was off. So it's kind of like a paid vacation. Yes, it's half your pay, but I mean, for somebody that thought they were going to get laid off anyway. And I guess, that you could bid for that. And a lot of guys took it. So, I mean, I think it's managed a lot better. Do you think, Sean, that's from them not heavy international travel? Is that like the domestic travel is least affected, right? International's done. Is that what your theory is on that? Or?
Well, back to the discount carriers, these guys from the beginning, their companies are structured to be ran on a shoestring anyway. They fly all the same types. They got people packed in there like sardines to the point where the seats don't recline. There's no refreshments, or you can't even get a water unless you pay for it. So they're already set up to be dirt cheap anyway. They're also flying into airports that don't require any, like Allegiant goes into that Sanford, Orlando. They don't go into MCO, the big, so they don't have all those fees of paying for all that infrastructure that Orlando's charging. Same thing
and it's
with
way better.
Fort Myers. They go into Punta Gorda, and so they were also the first airlines to drop any of, because it was not federally mandated. They were also the first airlines to drop all the restrictions of keeping the middle seat open or any of that kind of stuff. So they were packing those airplanes full, and this is, I don't even know if I should say this because I don't know that I have any real.
Are you going to make fun of their passengers?
But the mentality of the passengers that want the $39 airline ticket, they also might be the people that don't care about the coronavirus.
I don't
know. That's a Sean Ritchie theory.
Yeah, no, I agree. And also, Sean, you got to remember there's very little business travelers on there, and business travelers done, right? Because it's all leisure travel right now. And that's what we're seeing on the corporate side. I'm sure that's what you're seeing too, Sean, but we're doing no business trips. It's all pleasure, 100% pleasure, and pleasure trips are up, corporate side, probably 300% of last year because nobody wants to ride on the airlines anywhere, right? So these rich people they're burning it up, and they're going back and forth to their houses and things like that. And I hear on the charter side of things, I'm hearing that charter operators are going to have, by the time the year shakes out, are going to have equal to or better numbers than 2019. And that's with not flying for like 2 months. So that's how busy they are right now, or 3 months really.
Oh, I believe it. I mean, with all the stimulus money flying around, people got extra money in their pocket. They're afraid to fly on the airlines, but they still want to fly. You have a couple of, I don't want to use the word discount, but you have some of these newer operators, like Wheels Up, that just acquired. We did an episode on them acquiring Delta Air Elite. They're Delta private jets, a company you and I both flew for. Those people are everywhere, and I don't think that they're that pricey, so you got folks, dipping their toe into this whole charter thing. And I agree. They're doing well. And I know I've been in the last month and a half, I've been flying a lot. Actually, I've been wanting to fly a lot because there was 4 months there where I wasn't doing anything. But I've been out on the road here a lot lately. It feels good.
It does feel
back
good,
out
man,
there.
after being locked up all spring.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, good. Well, good, man. I think this gives everybody a good idea of what's going on, and the key takeaways from this are things are shaping up, I think, better than what you and I at least would have thought when we were sitting here in April. And I think it's better for corporate. It's better for the airlines. I mean, it's not great, but and then the big thing is the pent-up demand if you're thinking about jumping in.
Sure. Yep. The best time to get started is right now, or probably 6 months ago. Real quick, though, before we go, I did want to mention there are companies out there that are hiring. Don't forget, this whole time where everybody was locked up in their houses and not going to stores and shopping, the thing that they still needed was all their stuff, delivered. And those boxes are being flown around in the middle of the night while you're sleeping by all the freight operators. Got FedEx just announced they're hiring 800 pilots within the next year. Now that's a major operator. That's not going to be your first jet job. That's a major airline. FedEx, UPS, those guys are comparable to Delta, American, or United. But there are operators out there that are on the lower end freight stuff. You got Southern Air, you have ABX. These are the companies that are doing all the prime air stuff. And those guys, all you need is 1,500 hours. They want I believe it's their minimum is like 500 hours in a jet. This is stuff that if you use the tactics in the Pro-Pilot Playbook program that the program we sell,
Yeah.
we teach you how to get this stuff at. You could skip the flight instructing or skip the airlines,
Right.
and you could be in the right seat of a 777 flying around the world with
Right.
1,500 hours in your logbook. And
There,
these guys are
that
hiring.
that Challenger class I was in, there was 12 people in the class and quite a few new hires, but there was 4 FlexJet new hires in there. So FlexJet, if you guys don't know, you can look them up. They're a big time charter operator based in Dallas, Texas, but they have a ton of planes. I mean, it's a ton of pilots, and they're hiring right now too. So just because the demand for charter is so high.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like we've said
Good.
before, my prediction is, I had said before that the airlines will be the last industry to recover from all this. It's just the nature of how it works. I do
Right.
think there's going to be more stimulus money coming out, and I feel now that we're on the back end of it that people are just done with it, and I think people are
Yeah.
going to be even more done with it after this election's over at the beginning of November.
Oh yeah, there's that.
But
Yeah.
my prediction is the air will be back up into full swing within the. I said 2 years. That was probably a few months ago. I'm going 18 months now. We're going to be
Mhm.
those regional jets are going to be pulled out of their parking spots, and we're going to be back up to full swing. And then probably within another year of that, we're going to be in the biggest mess of a pilot shortage on the brink of it anyway. That
Yes.
it's going to be unfathomable because
Right.
all the flight schools. There's been flight schools that have went out of business because of this. People weren't going and getting flight lessons. My neighbor kid next door, this 17-year-old kid, he wanted to be a pilot, and all this stuff hit, and he saw how fragile our industry is, and it's always been fragile. There's always been in the market up and down, but he started questioning. His 17-year-old kid was bright enough to put together, man, is it that fragile? Like pilots are
Right.
getting laid off, losing their job. I don't know if I want to do that.
Yeah.
So you got kids like that may have changed their mind. So we're going to be in an even bigger mess than we were in or about to be in anyway. So if you're
Yeah.
even thinking about becoming a pilot, there's no better time in the history of the planet since we've been
No.
flying airplanes to do it.
Yep. Yep. Awesome. Everybody just needs to hang in there.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely.
Great.
So get over to the airport, start training, talk to a flight instructor. Great place to start.
Network.
Yeah, great place to start is just hit the internet or YouTube, or check out the ProPilotPlaybook.com where we put it all together for you in an easy wrapped package with a bow on it. You know. But I don't know. You got anything else, Mike?
I do remember a guy I used to fly with. He said he was talking about how he got into aviation, and he said his mom was yelling at him because he had dropped out of college, and she's like, "You need to find something to do." She's like, "If you're going to be a doctor, you need to go hang out at the hospital, and if you need to get out of this house. If you're going to be a lawyer, you go down to the courthouse, or if you want to be a pilot, go to the airport. I don't care. Just get out of here." She just throws that out. She's screaming at him. And he said he got in the car and he's like, "Pilot, that sounds pretty cool." He had never really thought of it. Then he went to the airport, started meeting people, his local airport, and then it was all over.
It is 100% true, though. I mean,
right.
If you go through life rudderless and you hang out with a bunch of numbskulls, guess what? You're going to be the next numbskull. I mean, that's just the way it works.
You got to take action, man. My favorite quote is not doing something is doing something, So, if you want to move in that direction, So let's keep it, keep everything positive. I think there is a positive spin to all this. And good luck to anyone starting a career.
All right. Yeah. So there's our industry update for October 21st, 2020. check us out. If you're on iTunes, subscribe to the podcast, YouTube, hit the subscribe button, like button. If you have a question you would like us to answer on the podcast, you can email us at podcast@propilotplaybook.com.
Great. Thanks a lot.
We'll see you guys next time.